Control your negative thoughts with this video, Stoic Philosophy. Have you ever found yourself lying in bed at 3 in the morning, your heart racing, mentally replaying all the things that could go wrong in your life? Have you ever felt that suffocating feeling that your own thoughts are sabotaging you, creating catastrophic scenarios that will probably never happen? If so, know that you're not alone. And more importantly, there's an ancient solution that can completely transform the way you deal with these destructive thoughts. Imagine for a moment that you could have complete control over your mind. I'm not talking about suppressing thoughts or pretending problems don't exist. I'm talking about something much more powerful. The ability to observe your negative thoughts without being overwhelmed by them, to transform worries into productive actions, and to find serenity even in the midst of chaos. This isn't cheap self-help or an empty promise. It's the result of over 2,000 years of wisdom accumulated by Stoic philosophers who developed a practical and effective system for mastering the human mind. The invisible prison, the truth, is that most of us live in a prison. Not a prison of bars and walls, but a much crueler prison, the prison of our own negative thoughts. Every excessive worry, every paralyzing anxiety, every irrational fear is like an invisible iron bar that keeps us trapped in an endless cycle of mental suffering. And worst of all, we ourselves are the jailers. Think about your day yesterday. How many times did you catch yourself imagining negative scenarios? How many times did you waste precious mental energy worrying about things that were completely beyond your control? If you're like most people, you probably spent more time fighting your own thoughts than solving real problems. It's as if our minds have been programmed for catastrophe mode, always expecting the worst, always anticipating disaster. But here's the secret the Stoics discovered over 2 millennia ago. Your thoughts are not you. This simple realization is so powerful, it can change your life in a matter of days. When you understand that your thoughts are merely temporary mental events, like clouds passing through the sky, you begin to develop a healthy distance between who you are and what you think. And it is in this distance that your freedom lies. Aurelius, the philosopher emperor of Rome, wrote in his personal meditations, "You have power over your mind, not over external events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Imagine this, the most powerful man in the known world at the time, facing wars, plagues, betrayals, and devastating personal losses, found solace and strength not in his army or wealth, but in his ability to control his own thoughts. The fatal error everyone makes. There's a fundamental mistake virtually all of us make when trying to deal with negative thoughts. We try to fight them. It's like trying to put out a fire by pouring gasoline on it. The more you fight, the stronger the fire gets. When a negative thought arises and you immediately try to suppress it, deny it, or fight it, you are actually giving it more power. I'm going to share something that may sound counterintuitive, but is absolutely crucial. Resistance fuels persistence. Every time you tell yourself don't think about it, your brain automatically thinks exactly that. It's as if I were to say now, don't imagine a pink elephant. What happened? You visualized the pink elephant, didn't you? This is the paradox of mental suppression. And it's precisely why so many people get stuck in negative thought spirals. The Stoics understood this profoundly. Epictetus, who spent part of his life as a slave before becoming one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, developed a radically different approach. Instead of fighting negative thoughts, he taught his students to do something revolutionary. Accept them, examine them, and then consciously decide what to do with them. Think of your thoughts as visitors in your mental home. Some are welcome and bring joy. Others are unpleasant and disruptive. But here's the thing, you don't have to serve tea and cookies to unpleasant visitors. You can acknowledge their presence, understand why they've come, and then politely show them the door. Not with violence or desperation, but with calm and determination. Modern neuroscience confirms what the Stoics intuited centuries ago. Studies show that when we try to suppress negative thoughts, we activate areas of the brain associated with monitoring and error detection, which ironically makes those thoughts even more salient and persistent. On the other hand, when by practicing mindful acceptance followed by cognitive redirection, exactly what the Stoics prescribed, we activate the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for executive control and rational decision-making. The secret technique of Marcus Aurelius. Now I'm going to reveal a technique that Marcus Aurelius used daily to maintain his sanity while ruling the largest empire in the world. This technique is so powerful that if you practice it consistently for just 1 week, you'll notice a dramatic change in how your negative thoughts affect you. The technique is called the view from above, and it works like this. Whenever you find yourself overwhelmed by negative thoughts, stop for a moment and imagine yourself rising. First, see yourself from outside your body, observing yourself from a few feet away. Then continue mentally rising. See your house, your neighborhood, your city. Keep rising until you see your country, your continent, and finally, the entire Earth floating in space. Now from up here, observe your problem. That worry that seemed to consume your entire mental universe suddenly seems small, not insignificant, but certainly not as catastrophic as it seemed moments ago. This shift in perspective isn't just a mental trick, it's a profound reminder that we are part of something much larger, and that most of our problems, however real and painful, are temporary and surmountable. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Observe the stars in their course, as if you were revolving with them." Such reflections purify the mind of the filth of earthly life. He wasn't being poetic or mystical, he was being deeply practical. When you see yourself as part of the cosmos, when you understand your connection to the whole, negative thoughts lose much of their tyrannical power over you. But here's the part most people don't understand about this technique. It's not just about minimizing problems, it's about gaining clarity. When you mentally distance yourself from a situation, you can see it more objectively. You can separate what's real from what's catastrophic imagination. You can identify what's within your control and what's not. And more importantly, you can decide what action to take, if any. Let's give a practical example. Let's say you're worried about an important presentation at work. Your negative thoughts are creating scenarios where you stutter, forget everything, and are humiliated in front of everyone. Now apply the bird's eye view technique. Mentally ascend until you see the situation from afar. What do you see? You see a person, you, who is about to speak to others, your colleagues, about a topic you know, your work. Suddenly, the situation no longer seems like the end of the world. It's just a presentation. Yes, it's important. Yes, you want to do well. But it's not a matter of life or death, and most importantly, now that you have this perspective, you can focus on what really matters, preparing well, practicing your speech, and accepting that some nervousness is normal and even useful to improve your performance. The power of the present. There's a disturbing truth about negative thoughts that needs to be said. 90% of them are about the past or the future. We rarely suffer from the present moment. We suffer from painful memories of what has already happened or anxieties about what might happen. And while we're stuck in this mental ping pong between past and future, we lose the only thing we truly have, the now. Seneca, another giant of Stoicism, had a quote that should be engraved in all of our minds. All cruelty arises from weakness. And the greatest weakness of all is our inability to live in the present. When you truly stop and observe your negative thoughts, you'll realize they always transport you to another time. Why did I do that? Takes you to the past. What if this happens? Throws you into the future. But where are you right now? You're here, reading these words, breathing, alive. The present is the only place where life truly happens. It's the only time you can act, change, grow. The past is immutable, a series of events fossilized in memory. The future is uncertain, a mental projection that may or may not materialize. But the present is your battlefield, your arena of transformation, your moment of power. The Stoics developed a specific exercise to anchor the mind in the present, and it's surprisingly simple. Whenever you find yourself lost in negative thoughts about the past or future, stop and ask these three questions. What am I seeing now? What am I hearing now? What am I physically feeling now? Don't judge the answers, just observe. You might be seeing the screen of your device, hearing the sound of traffic outside, feeling the weight of your body in the chair. These are facts of the present, and there are challenges in reality that bring you back from the world of negative imagination. But here's the real secret to living in the present. It's not about ignoring the future or forgetting the past. It's about understanding that the only place you can influence the future or learn from the past is in the present. Every action you take now is a seed planted for the future. Every lesson you apply now is wisdom drawn from the past. The present is not an escape from temporality. It is the convergence point where past, present, and future meet, and where you have real power. The dichotomy of control. Now we come to the most revolutionary and liberating concept in all of Stoic philosophy, the dichotomy of control. If you understand and apply this one concept, your life will never be the same. It is the master key that unlocks all the doors of the mental prison we live in. Epictetus said, "Some things are within our control, others are not." Sounds simple, doesn't it? But the depth of this observation is oceanic. Most of our mental suffering stems from a fundamental confusion. We waste energy trying to control what we can't control and neglect what we can control. Let's be specific. What's under your control? Your judgments, your decisions, your desires, your actions. In other words, your responses to events, not the events themselves. What's not under your control? Literally everything else. The behavior of others, the past, the future, your reputation, your health to a large extent, the economy, the weather, traffic, the results of your actions. I know this may sound discouraging at first, but it's actually incredibly liberating. When you stop wasting energy trying to control the uncontrollable, you free up a massive amount of mental and emotional resources to focus on what you can actually change. It's as if you were pushing against a concrete wall with all your might, sweating, exhausting yourself, and suddenly someone shows you that there's a door right next door. I'll give you an example that will clarify everything. Imagine you've been fired from your job. The layoff itself isn't in your control. It's already happened. The company's decision isn't in your control. The economic situation that may have led to the layoff isn't in your control. But you know what is. Your response to this situation. You can choose to see this as a catastrophe or an opportunity. You can choose to play the victim or take action. You can choose to be paralyzed by fear or use this time to reinvent yourself. You can choose to dwell on the past or plan for the future. These choices, these responses are your realm of absolute control, and therein lies your power. The fascinating thing is that when you focus only on what you can control, something magical happens. You indirectly influence many of the things you can't directly control. You can't control whether you'll be hired for a new job, but you can control how well you prepare for interviews. You can't control whether people will like you, but you can control how authentic and kind you are. You can't control the outcomes, but you can control the processes that lead to those outcomes. Turning poison into medicine. There's a concept in Stoicism that's so powerful, it should be taught in every school in the world. The Stoics call it the obstacle is the way, but I like to think of it as mental alchemy, the art of turning poison into medicine. Every negative thought, every adversity, every problem contains within it the seed of something positive. I'm not talking about superficial positive thinking or pretending problems don't exist. I'm talking about a profound truth about the nature of reality. Everything has two sides, and you choose which side to see and use. Marcus Aurelius, facing a plague that was decimating his empire, wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Think about that for a moment. What he's saying is revolutionary. The very obstacles that seem to block your progress are actually the raw material of your growth. Let's make this practical. You have negative thoughts about not being good enough. That's the poison. But what's the medicine hidden in that poison? These thoughts are showing you areas where you can grow. They are revealing insecurities that once faced can become your greatest strengths. They are giving you the opportunity to prove to yourself that you are stronger than you think. Every criticism that hurts you carries a lesson. Every failure that knocks you down teaches you what doesn't work. Every fear that paralyzes you shows you where you need to develop courage. The Stoics weren't masochists who enjoyed suffering. They were pragmatists who understood that suffering is inevitable, but learning from it is optional. I'll share a specific technique, one you can use immediately. When a negative thought arises, instead of fighting it or giving into it, ask yourself these three questions. What is this thought trying to protect me from? What can I learn from it? How can I use it to become stronger? For example, if you have constant negative thoughts about failing a new project, ask yourself, what is this thought trying to protect me from? Maybe from shame, disappointment, or financial loss. Okay, these are valid concerns. What can I learn that I need to prepare better, create contingency plans, seek mentorship? How can I use this to become stronger? I can use this anxiety as fuel for preparation, transforming fear into strategic action. See, the negative thought didn't magically disappear, but now it's working for you, not against you. You've taken the poison and extracted the medicine. This is pure mental alchemy, and it's a skill you can develop with practice. The death exercise now. I'm going to talk about something that may seem morbid, but is one of the most liberating practices of Stoicism: meditation on death, or as the Romans called it, memento mori, remembering that you will die. Before you think this is depressing, let me explain why thinking about death is, paradoxically, the best way to eliminate negative thoughts about life. When you deeply accept your mortality, something extraordinary happens. The small worries that dominated your mind suddenly seem irrelevant. Seneca practiced a specific exercise. He imagined that each day could be his last, not in a morbid or paranoid way, but as a constant reminder of what truly matters. When you know your time is limited, you stop wasting it on trivial concerns. When you accept that one day you will no longer be here, every moment you are here becomes precious. Think about your current negative thoughts. Now imagine you only have 1 year to live. How many of those thoughts would still seem important? How many of these worries would be worth carrying? Probably very few. The proximity of death has the power to instantly clarify what truly matters. But here's the deeper insight. You don't have to wait until you're dying to have this clarity. You can cultivate it now through the conscious practice of memento mori. Each morning when you wake up, remind yourself, this could be my last day, not as a source of anxiety, but as a source of focus and gratitude. Negative thoughts thrive on the illusion that we have infinite time. I'll be unhappy today because tomorrow things will be better. I'll worry about this now because I have all the time in the world to be happy later. But when you embrace your mortality, this procrastination of happiness becomes impossible. You realize that the only guaranteed moment is this one, and wasting it on negative thoughts is the true waste. Interestingly, modern science confirms what the Stoics knew intuitively. Studies show that people who regularly contemplate their mortality report higher levels of gratitude, purpose, and life satisfaction. They also show less anxiety about the future and fewer regrets about the past. The awareness of death, paradoxically, makes us more alive. The inner fortitude. Let's talk about something you already possess but probably don't know about. An impregnable inner fortitude. The Stoics believed that every human being possesses within themselves a sacred space that no external force can violate. It is their power of choice, their ability to decide how to respond to any situation. Viktor Frankl, Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, though not technically a Stoic, expressed this principle perfectly when he said, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In this space lies our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." Think about it. No matter what happens to you, no matter how dire the situation, no matter how many negative thoughts invade your mind, there is always this sacred space where you can choose your response. This is your inner fortress, and once you learn to consciously inhabit it, you become invincible in the truest sense of the word. Epictetus, who lived as a slave for years, understood this better than anyone. He was chained, beaten, humiliated, but he discovered there was a part of him that no chain could bind, no beating could touch, no humiliation could reach. It was his rational mind, his ability to choose his thoughts and responses. How do you build and strengthen this inner fortress? Through the daily practice of small conscious choices. Each time you choose not to react with anger with provocation, you strengthen the walls. Each time you choose to examine a negative thought instead of being controlled by it, you add a watchtower. Each time you choose to act according to your values instead of your impulses, you deepen the moat around your fortress. The key is to start small. You don't have to face your biggest fears immediately. Start with minor irritations. Did someone cut you off in traffic? Instead of exploding in anger, consciously choose to remain calm. Use this moment as training. Tell yourself, I choose not to give this person the power to ruin my day. Over time, these small exercises add up. You develop what the Stoics called the muscle of choice. And when the real challenges arise, when the truly heavy negative thoughts try to invade, you have a well-trained and well-defended fortress waiting for them. The paradox of acceptance. Here's something that will seem contradictory at first, but contains profound wisdom. To change something, you first need to accept it completely. This is the paradox of acceptance, and it's one of the most powerful tools against negative thinking. Most of us spend our lives at war with reality. This shouldn't be happening. I shouldn't be feeling this way. Things should be different, but this resistance to reality is precisely what amplifies our suffering. It's like trying to swim against a powerful current. You exhaust yourself and get nowhere. The Stoics propose something radical, amor fati, the love of fate. This doesn't mean passive resignation or giving up. It means completely accepting what is, so you can then work effectively with it. It's the difference between wasting energy, denying the rain, and simply grabbing an umbrella. When a negative thought arises, our instinctive reaction is to reject it, deny it, fight it. I shouldn't be thinking this. But what happens when you do the opposite? When you say, okay, this thought is here, I see it, I accept it as part of my current experience. Something magical happens. The thought loses its power. It's like those Chinese finger traps. The more you pull, the more stuck it becomes. But when you relax, when you accept the situation, you suddenly find room to maneuver. Acceptance isn't defeat. It's the first strategic step to victory. Marcus Aurelius had a specific practice for this. Every morning he mentally prepared for the day by accepting in advance everything that could go wrong. Today I will encounter arrogant, ungrateful, violent, treacherous, envious, antisocial people. This may sound pessimistic, but it was actually profoundly liberating. By accepting these possibilities, he wasn't caught off guard when they happened. He had already accepted, processed, and decided how he would respond. Try this exercise. Pick your most persistent negative thought. the one that always comes back. Instead of fighting it, sit with it. Say, "Hello, old friend, I see you. You're here because you're trying to protect me from something. I accept your presence." Then observe what happens. In most cases, the thought loses its urgency, its invasive quality. It becomes just another thought, not your master. The practice of negative visualization. This may sound strange coming from a topic about controlling negative thoughts, but the Stoics practiced something called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evil. It is essentially controlled and purposeful negative visualization, and it is one of the most powerful tools for eliminating anxiety and fear. The idea is simple but profound. Deliberately imagine losing the things you value. Visualize scenarios where things go wrong. But, and this is the crucial point, do it in a controlled, calm and strategic way, not in an anxious and obsessive way. Why does this work? Because fear of the unknown is always worse than fear of the known. When you deliberately visualize a negative scenario, you remove the element of surprise. You prepare yourself psychologically. And most importantly, you realize that even in the worst-case scenarios, you would survive and might even thrive. Seneca took this to the extreme. Periodically, he slept on the floor, ate only bread and water, and wore his simplest clothes. Why? To prove to himself that even if he lost all, his wealth and comforts, he would still be able to be happy. This wasn't masochism. It was elite psychological training. You don't have to go that far, but you can apply the principle. Are you afraid of losing your job? Sit quietly and visualize it happening. But don't stop at the loss. Keep visualizing. What would you do? How would you adapt? What opportunities might arise? You'll likely discover that, while not ideal, it wouldn't be the end of the world. And this knowledge removes the paralyzing power of fear. The difference between stoic negative visualization and anxious worry is control and purpose. Worry is passive, repetitive, and unresolvable. Negative visualization is active, time-limited, and solution-oriented. You're not torturing yourself with negative possibilities. You're immunizing yourself against them. There's also a powerful secondary benefit: gratitude. When you visualize losing something and then realize you still have it, a surge of appreciation naturally arises. It's impossible to take things for granted when you regularly contemplate their absence. The warrior's journal Marcus Aurelius left us one of the most precious documents in human history, his Meditations, which were essentially his personal diary. He never intended them to be published. They were his private reflections, his internal battles, his victories and defeats in the war against his own negative thoughts. What can we learn from this? The transformative power of writing down your thoughts. But not just any kind of writing, strategic, focused, purposeful writing. What I call the warrior's journal, because you're at war with your mental demons and every warrior needs a battle plan. Here's how it works. Every night before bed, grab a notebook. Don't use your phone or computer. There's something powerful in the physical act of writing. Divide the page into 3 sections. In the first, write down the negative thoughts that attacked you during the day. Be specific. Don't censor. Let them out. In the second section, examine each thought like a scientist would examine a sample. Is it based on facts or assumptions? Is it about something you can control or not? Is it helping or hurting you? Be ruthlessly honest. In the third section, rewrite each thought in a more balanced and useful way. I'm not saying to turn negativity into false positivity. I'm saying to turn distortion into reality, paralysis into action, despair into strategy. For example, negative thought: I'm a complete failure. Exam: this is an extreme generalization based on specific events, not an absolute truth. It's hurting me, and it's not within my control to change the past. Rephrase, I failed at some specific things, which is normal and human. I can learn from these failures and do better tomorrow. This process does something crucial. It externalizes your thoughts. When they're just in your head, they seem enormous, true, urgent. When they're on paper, you can see them for what they really are. Just thoughts, not facts. Hypotheses, not truths. Possibilities, not certainties. The art of selective indifference. The Stoics mastered something our modern society has completely forgotten. The art of selective indifference. Not indifference as apathy or emotional coldness, but as a conscious choice about where to invest your emotional energy. Imagine you have an emotional bank account with a limited amount of energy per day. Every time you worry about something, get angry about something, or stress about something, you're withdrawing from that account. Most people are constantly in the red, emotionally bankrupt, because they waste that energy on things that don't matter. A stranger's opinion on the internet, not worth your emotional investment. Someone's rude behavior in traffic, not worth your energy. The possibility of rain on your barbecue in 2 weeks, completely beyond your control and therefore undeserving of concern. Epictetus taught his students to constantly ask themselves, is this my problem? It sounds simple, but it's revolutionary. Most of our negative thoughts are about problems that aren't ours. They're other people's problems, hypothetical problems, past problems, future problems, impossible problems. When you develop selective indifference, you don't become cold or disinterested. You become focused. You save your emotional energy for the things that truly matter. Your actions, your values, your direct responsibilities, the people you love. It's like being an archer. If you try to shoot at all your targets at once, you won't hit any. But if you choose your target carefully, focusing all your energy on it, your chances of success increase dramatically. Selective indifference is about choosing your targets wisely. Practice this today. When a negative thought arises, ask yourself, does it really matter? Will it matter in a week, in a month, in a year? If the answer is no, practice the sublime art of not caring, not with anger or resentment, but with the calm confidence of someone who knows where their energy is best invested. The power of the morning ritual. The Stoics understood something that modern psychology has only recently grasped and covered. How you start your day largely determines how the rest of it will be. If you wake up and immediately plunge into negative thoughts, bad news, worries and stress, you're programming your brain for a day of negativity. Therefore, they developed specific morning rituals to fortify the mind against the day's inevitable challenges. These rituals weren't complicated or time-consuming, but they were consistent and purposeful. Marcus Aurelius began each day with reflection and mental preparation. Before even getting out of bed, he reminded himself of fundamental Stoic principles. He prepared for difficulties and decided in advance how he would respond. He cultivated gratitude for the simple fact that he was alive to face another day. Here's a Stoic morning ritual you can implement immediately, and it takes less than 10 minutes. First, upon waking, before checking your phone, before thinking about the day's problems, take 3 deep breaths and say, I woke up. I have one more day to live. That's enough to be grateful for. Second, remember the dichotomy of control. Tell yourself, today, I will focus only on what I can control, my thoughts, my actions, my responses. Everything else, I accept as it comes. Third, briefly visualize the day's likely challenges, not with anxiety, but with strategic preparation. I can encounter this, this, and this. When it happens, I will respond calmly, rationally, and in accordance with my values. Fourth, set an intention for the day. Not a specific goal, but a quality you want to embody. Today, I will practice patience, or today, I will be courageous, or today, I will be present. Fifth, get up immediately. Don't lie in bed ruminating. Physical movement interrupts negative thought patterns. The Stoics were big proponents of immediate action as an antidote to mental paralysis. This ritual creates what I call morning mental armor. You're consciously programming your mind for resilience before the day's challenges have a chance to catch you unprepared. It's like putting on armor before battle, not during it. The instant reframe technique. I'm now going to share a technique that can instantly transform any negative thought into something useful. It's based on a fundamental Stoic principle. It's not events that upset us, but our judgments about them. The instant reframe technique works like this. When a negative thought arises, pause for a second and reframe it using these 3 transformations. First, transformation from victim to agent. Instead of, why is this happening to me? Ask, how can I use this? Instead of, this is terrible, say, this is challenging. Instead of, I have no choice, say, what are my options? Second transformation. From permanent to temporary, add for now or at this moment to any negative thought. I'm failing becomes I'm failing for now. This is impossible becomes this seems impossible right now. This simple addition reminds your brain that states are temporary, not permanent. Third transformation, from absolute to specific. Transform generalizations into specifics. Everything is going wrong becomes these 3 specific things didn't go as planned. No one understands me becomes these specific people didn't understand this specific point. The power of this technique lies in its speed. You don't need deep meditation or complex analysis. It's an instant reframe that can be done in seconds, and the more you practice, the more automatic it becomes. Let's give a real-life example. Let's say you have the thought, I'm terrible at presentations, I'll mess up tomorrow and everyone will think I'm incompetent. Applying the instant reframe, from victim to agent, presentations are challenging for me. How can I better prepare? From permanent to temporary, my presentation skills need development right now. From absolute to specific, my last presentation had specific issues with organization and eye contact. See how completely different the transformed thinking is? It's not falsely positive, it still acknowledges the challenge, but now it's actionable, temporary, and specific, rather than catastrophic, permanent, and pervasive. The reservation principle. There's a little known but extremely powerful Stoic concept called the reservation clause. It's a way of thinking that eliminates much of the frustration and disappointment that fuel negative thoughts. It works like this. Whenever you set out to do something, mentally add, if nothing external prevents it. Now, it sounds simple, but it's transformative. I will get this job becomes, I will prepare perfectly and give my best in the interview if nothing external prevents it. Asking for the result. This isn't pessimism or a lack of confidence. It's strategic realism. You maintain full commitment to the action which is within your control while maintaining a healthy detachment from the outcome which isn't entirely within your control. Seneca applied this constantly. When he made plans, he always included the clause, if the gods permit, not out of superstition but out of practical wisdom. He understood that 1,000 factors beyond our control can interfere between our action and the desired outcome. The principle of reserve protects you from 2 types of negative thoughts: frustration when things don't go as planned, and anxiety about achieving specific results. When you deeply internalize that results aren't entirely within your control, you stop beating yourself up when they don't come. But here's the most important part. The principle of reserve doesn't diminish your effort. On the contrary, it increases it. When you know the outcome isn't guaranteed, you focus even more on the only thing you can control, the quality of your attempt. You become like an artist who paints for the love of painting, not for the guarantee that the painting will be finished, will be sold. The philosophy of obstacle as fuel. Ryan Holiday popularized the Stoic concept of the obstacle is the way. But I want to take it a step further. The obstacle is not just the way, it's the fuel. Every negative thought, every difficulty, every setback is potential energy waiting to be converted into momentum. Think of how an engine works. It takes controlled explosions, literally small disasters, and converts them into forward motion. Your negative thoughts can work the same way. They are bursts of emotional energy that, when channeled correctly, can propel you forward instead of destroying you. Marcus Aurelius faced plagues, wars, betrayals, the deaths of many of his children. Any of these tragedies could have broken an ordinary man, but he used each as fuel to become wiser, more compassionate, more resilient. His meditations are the record of a man consistently turning poison into medicine. How do you do this practically? First, change your fundamental question. Instead of "why is this happening to me?" Now ask yourself, how can I grow from this? Instead of "what have I lost?" ask yourself, what can I gain? Second, actively look for the lesson or opportunity hidden in every difficulty. Did you lose your job? An opportunity for reinvention. Did a relationship end? A chance for self-discovery. Did a project fail? Valuable education on what doesn't work. Third, use the energy of negative thinking for positive action. Are you angry? Use that energy to train or create something. Are you sad? Use that emotional depth to develop empathy and connection with others. Are you anxious? Use that heightened state of alertness for detailed preparation and planning. This isn't superficial positive thinking, it's deep psychological alchemy. You're not denying the reality of the difficulty, you're using your energy to transcend it. The concept of the discipline of perception. The Stoics divided philosophy into three disciplines: perception, action, and will. The discipline of perception is arguably the most important because how you see things determines how you respond to them. Epictetus said, "It is not things in themselves that it's not what disturbs us, but our opinions about them." This single sentence holds the key to freeing yourself from negative thoughts. The event is neutral. It's your interpretation that creates suffering or serenity. Imagine you're driving and someone cuts you off in traffic. The objective event is a car changed lanes in front of you, but your perception can create multiple realities. That idiot disrespected me. Anger. Maybe he's rushing to an emergency. Compassion. I'm glad I'm alert and avoided an accident. Gratitude. This reminds me to always keep a safe distance. Learning. The same event, four different perceptions, four completely different emotional experiences. And here's the crucial thing. You choose which perception to adopt. It's not automatic, though it may seem so. With practice, you can consciously choose perceptions that serve rather than sabotage. The discipline of perception requires constant training. Like a muscle, it strengthens with use. Start with small daily irritations. When something minor bothers you, pause and consciously choose one. A different perception, not the most convenient or comfortable perception, but the most useful and true. Over time, this becomes second nature. You develop what the Stoics called philosophical eyes, the ability to see through superficial appearances to the deeper reality. And in this deeper reality, most of our negative thoughts are revealed as illusions of our own creation. Most the practice of universal love, it may seem strange to speak of love in the context of controlling negative thoughts, but the Stoics understood that love, specifically love for humanity, is one of the most powerful antidotes to mental negativity. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded us, what benefits the swarm benefits the bee. We are social beings, interconnected, interdependent. When you cultivate genuine love and compassion for others, many of your negative thoughts simply evaporate. Why? Because much of our mental negativity stems from a sense of separation. Me against the world. No one understands me. I'm alone in this. But when you deeply acknowledge your connection to all humanity, this sense of isolation and the suffering it brings dissolve. The Stoics practiced a specific exercise called circles of Hierocles. Imagine concentric circles around you. The innermost circle is you, the next is your immediate family, then close friends, then acquaintances, then strangers, then all of humanity. The exercise consists of consciously pulling the outer circles closer, treating strangers as acquaintances, acquaintances as friends, friends as family, not naively or dangerously, but with the fundamental understanding that we all share the same human nature, the same fears, the same hopes. When you practice universal love, something magical happens to your negative thoughts about others. That annoying colleague, they're fighting their own battles. That rude driver, maybe they're having the worst day of their life. That politician you hate, they too are fallible human beings trying to navigate the complexity of existence. This doesn't mean accepting bad behavior or having no boundaries. It means understanding that everyone, including you, is doing the best they can with their level of consciousness. And this understanding dissolves the poison of hatred, resentment, and judgment that fuels so many of our negative thoughts. The rational worst-case scenario strategy. There is a crucial difference between anxious catastrophizing and rational worst-case scenario contemplation. The former paralyzes you, the latter liberates you. The Stoics were masters of the second. When you're tormented by negative thoughts about something that could go wrong, do this exercise. Sit calmly and rationally work through the worst case scenario. But, and this is crucial, do it thoroughly and strategically. First, identify what the worst that can actually happen is. Not the worst your anxiety imagines, death, total destruction, eternal humiliation, but the realistic worst case scenario. Could you lose your job? Could your relationship end? Could you fail an exam? Second, mentally accept that it could happen. Don't wish it away, but embrace the possibility. If that happens, I will survive. Third, and most importantly, develop an action plan for that scenario. If you lose your job, what would you do? Start looking immediately. Dip into your savings. Temporarily move your family. Start freelance. Be specific. Fourth, identify the positives even in the worst-case scenario. It sounds crazy, but they always exist. Lost your job. Time to rethink. Your career, relationship over, opportunity for personal growth, failed an exam, valuable feedback on where you need to improve. When you do this, something extraordinary happens. Fear loses its power. You've lived through the worst, accepted it, planned for it, and even found value in it. Suddenly, the future no longer seems so threatening. You're prepared for anything. Tim Ferriss calls this fear setting rather than goal setting and credits the Stoics with saving his life when he was contemplating suicide. By rationally working through his worst fears, he realized that even the worst-case scenarios were survivable and even potentially transformative. The Stoic mindfulness method. While mindfulness is often associated with Buddhism, the Stoics had their own powerful version called prosoche, continuous attention to the present moment, but with a unique twist, mindfulness with a philosophical purpose. Stoic prosoche isn't just about observing your thoughts and sensations, it's observing them through the lens of Stoic principles. When a negative thought arises, you don't just notice its presence. You immediately examine it. Is this within my control? Is it aligned with virtue? Is it based on facts or assumptions? This form of mindfulness is more active and focused than traditional meditation. You're not a passive observer of your thoughts. You're an active guardian of your mind. Every thought that attempts to enter the fortress of your consciousness must undergo inspection. Practice this as you go. Ing of the day. Set reminders on your phone if necessary. Every hour, stop for 30 seconds and examine your current thoughts. Don't judge whether they are positive or negative. Examine whether they are useful or useless, true or distorted, under your control or not. Over time, this mental vigilance becomes automatic. You develop what Marcus Aurelius called inner discipline, the ability to keep your mind focused on what matters while letting everything else pass by like clouds in the sky. Transformation. Through action, here's a truth that can change your life. Action is the most powerful antidote to negative thoughts. Not just any action, but action aligned with your values and under your control. The Stoics weren't armchair philosophers. They were people of action. Emperors, senators, merchants, soldiers. They understood that philosophy without action is just intellectual masturbation. And more importantly, they knew that purposeful action cuts through the fog of negative thoughts like a sword. When you're stuck in a negative thought loop, the worst thing you can do is sit down and try to think your way out of it. It's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. Instead, get up and take action, but not random action, strategic action based on what's within your control. Worried about your health? Don't ruminate on possible illnesses. Go for a walk now. Anxious about your finances? Don't torture yourself with catastrophic scenarios. Open a spreadsheet and make a budget. Sad about a relationship? Don't wallow in self-pity. Write a letter expressing your feelings, even if you never send it. Action has an almost magical power to clarify thinking. When you take action, you step out of the abstract world of worry and into the concrete world of reality. And in reality, you always discover that things are more manageable than they seemed in your head. The principle of the brevity of life. Seneca wrote extensively about the brevity of life, not to depress, but to inspire urgency and focus. When you truly internalize how short life is, wasting it on negative thoughts becomes unthinkable. Do this math. If you live to be 80, you have approximately 29,200 days. If you are 30, you have already used about 11,000. You have fewer than 20,000 days left, fewer than 20,000 sunrises, fewer than 20,000 opportunities to live fully. How many of those precious days do you want to spend torturing yourself with thoughts about things you can't control? How many of those once-in-a-lifetime mornings do you want to waste worrying about futures that may never happen? How many of those irreparable nights do you want to spend ruminating on pasts you can't change? When you see your life from this perspective, the futility of negative thoughts becomes crystal clear. Every moment spent in useless worry is a moment stolen from your finite allotment of life. It's a crime against yourself, a theft of your own most precious treasure. But here's the paradox. When you accept the brevity of life, you paradoxically feel as if you have more time. Why? Because you stop wasting it, you become present, you focus on the essential, you act instead of ruminating. And a life lived this way, even if short in years, is long in experience and meaning. Community as healing. The Stoics, contrary to the stereotype of the solitary philosopher, deeply understood the importance of community. They knew that isolation is a breeding ground for negative thoughts, while genuine connection is its natural antidote. Marcus Aurelius, even as emperor, maintained a close circle of philosopher friends with whom he discussed ideas and challenges. Seneca exchanged letters constantly with his friend Lucilius, using the correspondence as a way to clarify and strengthen his thinking. Epictetus taught in a school, surrounded by students with whom he shared and refined his philosophy. When you share your negative thoughts with trusted and wise people, something transformative happens. First, the simple act of verbalizing them brings them out of the darkness of your mind and into the light of day, where they often seem less threatening. Second, you gain different perspectives that can reveal distortions in your thinking. Third, you discover that you are not alone. Others struggle with similar thoughts. But be careful, not every community is healing. Avoid people who amplify negativity, who revel in drama, who compete to see who suffers the most. Seek out people who, like the Stoics, seek wisdom, practice virtue, and face challenges with courage and rationality. If you don't have such a community physically available, create a virtual one. Join online Stoic philosophy groups. Read the writings of the Stoics as if you were having a conversation with them. Marcus Aurelius may have died almost 2,000 years ago, but his words can be your mentor. Today, the nightly ritual of reflection. Just as the morning ritual prepares you for the day, the nightly ritual consolidates your learnings and prepares your mind for regenerative rest. Seneca practiced what he called an examination of conscience every night. Before bed, review your day as a neutral observer, not with harsh judgment or destructive self-criticism, but with honest curiosity. Where did you act according to your values? Where did you let negative thoughts dominate? What did you learn? How can you do better tomorrow? This is not an exercise in self-flagellation. It is a process of continuous refinement, like an athlete reviewing game footage to improve performance. You are reviewing your day to improve your life. Be specific. Instead of "I was negative today," identify, at 2 p.m. when I received that email, I let anger take over and responded impulsively. So plan. Tomorrow, if I receive a provocative email, I'll wait an hour before responding. Always end with gratitude. No matter how difficult the day was, find 3 things to be grateful for. They can be small. Your breakfast was good. The traffic flowed better than usual. You had the health to face the day. Gratitude is incompatible with mental negativity. They cannot coexist in the same mental space. Philosophy as a way of life. We've reached the crucial point. Stoicism is not a philosophy to be studied. It is a philosophy to be lived. Every principle, every technique, every insight is only valuable when applied to real life, in the messy and chaotic world of everyday life. Pierre Hadot, the great scholar of ancient philosophy, argued that for the ancients, philosophy was primarily a way of life, not an academic exercise. The Stoics took this to the extreme. For them, every moment was an opportunity to practice philosophy, every challenge a test of their principles, every interaction a chance to live virtuously. This means that controlling your negative thoughts isn't something you do for 10 minutes during your morning meditation. It's something you practice continuously, moment by moment, breath by breath. It's a lifelong commitment to mental and emotional excellence. But here's the good news. The more you practice, the easier it gets. What initially requires conscious effort eventually becomes second nature. The negative thought patterns that have dominated you for years begin to weaken. New, healthier, and more helpful patterns take their place. Don't expect perfection. The Stoics themselves admitted that the perfect sage was an ideal, not a reality. Marcus Aurelius, even a dedicated practitioner for decades, still struggled with negative thoughts, as his meditations clearly show. The goal isn't to completely eliminate negative thoughts, it's to not be controlled by them. The path of transformation. If you've made it this far, you've already taken the first and most important step. You've decided to take control of your mind. Now the real work begins. But it's not hard, miserable work. It's the most rewarding work you can do. It's the work of becoming who you truly are, free from the chains of negative thoughts that have limited you for so long. Start small. Choose one technique from this content and practice it for a week. It could be your morning ritual. It could be the dichotomy of control. It could be the warrior's journal. No matter which one you choose, commit completely. Practice it even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. After a week, add another technique, then another. Build your mental arsenal piece by piece. In a month, you'll have a robust defense system against negative thoughts. In 3 months, you'll be a different person. In a year, you'll look back and barely recognize the person who was dominated by mental negativity. But remember, this isn't about becoming an emotionless robot. The Stoics valued appropriate emotions: joy, compassion, righteous motivation. The goal is to eliminate destructive emotions and thoughts that serve no useful purpose. It's about clarity, not coldness; serenity, not apathy. Strength, not rigidity. The legacy. You leave Marcus Aurelius never intended for his meditations to be read by others. He wrote them for himself as a tool for self-improvement. But nearly 2,000 years later, his words continue to transform lives. Why? Because he lived what he wrote. His words carry the weight of lived experience, not just abstract theory. You, too, are creating a legacy, whether you realize it or not. Every time you choose to respond with wisdom rather than reactivity, you are influencing everyone around you. Every time you demonstrate that it is possible to remain calm in the midst of chaos, you are teaching by example. Every time you transform a negative thought into positive action, you are showing the way to others. Your legacy doesn't have to be grand or public. It could be the child who learns resilience by watching you. It could be the colleague who finds courage in your example. It could be the stranger who is touched by your kindness on a difficult day. When you control your negative thoughts and live by wise principles, you become a force for good in the world. The Stoics believed in something called sympathia, the interconnectedness of all things. When you improve yourself, you improve the world. When you elevate your thoughts, you elevate the collective consciousness. When you find inner peace, you radiate outer peace. The journey continues. Controlling negative thoughts isn't a destination you reach and then relax. It's a continuous journey of growth and refinement. There will be days when you fail spectacularly. There will be times when old patterns return with a vengeance. That's normal. That's human. That's part of the process. What matters is not perfection, but persistence. It's not about never falling, but always getting up. It's not about completely eliminating negative thoughts, but about not letting them rule your life. Every day, you have a new opportunity to practice. Every moment, you have a new chance to choose wisdom over reactivity, courage over fear, action over paralysis. With every breath, you can begin anew. The Stoics had a phrase, memento vivere, remember to live. Not just exist, not just survive, but truly live. And you cannot truly live when trapped in a prison of negative thoughts. The freedom you seek isn't found in perfect external circumstances. It's in your ability to choose your thoughts and responses. The final invitation you now hold in your hands over 2,000 years of distilled wisdom. You have practical techniques, profound insights, and a clear path to mental freedom. The question now isn't whether you can control your negative thoughts. You definitely can. The question is, will you remain a victim of your own thoughts, or will you become the master of your mind? Will you continue wasting precious days in worry and anxiety, or will you live with purpose and presence? Will you let the past and future steal your present, or will you reclaim the only moment you truly have, this one right now? The Stoic path isn't easy, but it's simple. It isn't comfortable, but it's liberating. It's not for everyone, but if you resonate with these words, if something inside you recognizes their truth, then it's for you. Start today. Not tomorrow, not Monday, not New Year's. Today, now. With the next thought that pops into your mind, observe it, examine it. Consciously choose what to do with it. This is the first step on a journey that can completely transform your life. Remember, you are not alone on this journey. You are part of a lineage that stretches back thousands of years. Marcus Aurelius faced the same mental challenges you do. Seneca struggled with the same inner demons. Epictetus overcame adversities that would make most of us give up. If they could do it, so can you. Each time you practice these techniques, you join an invisible community of practitioners across time and space. Each time you choose wisdom over reactivity, you honor their legacy and build your own. Controlling negative thoughts isn't just about you, it's about who you become. It's about the impact you have. It's about the life you live and the legacy you leave. It's about realizing your full human potential, free from the mental chains that have held you back for so long. Stoic philosophy offers more than mind control techniques. It offers a complete vision of how to live a good life. A life of virtue, wisdom, courage, and justice. A life of meaning and purpose. A life that when you look back on your deathbed, you can say, I lived. I didn't just exist, I lived fully. Conclusion. Your new life begins. Now, you've reached the end of this content, but in truth, you're at the beginning. The beginning of a new way of thinking, a new way of living, a new way of being. The negative thoughts that have plagued you for so long no longer need to control you. You have the tools, you have the knowledge, you have the power. But unused tools are useless. Unapplied knowledge is sterile. Unexercised power is wasted. The real question is, what will you do now? I challenge you to make a commitment to yourself. Not a vague commitment to think more positively or stress less. A specific, measurable, actionable commitment. Commit to practicing one Stoic technique a day for the next 30 days. Just one. Consistently. It could be 2 minutes of negative visualization in the morning. It could be write 3 thoughts in your warrior journal at night. It could be practicing the dichotomy of control whenever you feel anxious. Choose one and make it your daily non-negotiable. In 30 days, you will have created a new habit. More importantly, you will have proven to yourself that you can change, that you can control your thoughts, that you can live by ancient wisdom in a chaotic modern world. This is not the end. It is the beginning of your Stoic journey. A journey that doesn't promise ease, but it does promise strength. It doesn't promise the absence of problems, but it does promise the ability to deal with any problem. It doesn't promise constant happiness, but it does promise profound serenity even in the midst of a storm. If this content resonated with you, if you feel like you've finally found a path that makes sense, then don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to the channel to continue your journey of growth. Leave, like as a commitment to yourself that you will apply what you've learned. But more important than likes or subscriptions is what you do when you close this video. Do you return to old patterns or start new ones? Do you let this be just another piece of content consumed, or let it be the catalyst for your transformation? The choice, as the Stoics always taught, is yours. And it's the only thing truly under your complete control. Use it wisely. Your new life, free from the tyranny of negative thoughts, begins with the next choice you make. Make it count. Always remember, you have within you, at this very moment, everything you need to live an extraordinary life. Not in extraordinary circumstances, but with an extraordinary response to circumstances. Not with an absence of challenges, but with a presence of character. Not with always positive thoughts, but with mastery over your thoughts. The Stoic path awaits you. Ancient wisdom is available. Transformation is possible. The only question that remains is, are you ready? If the answer is yes, then welcome to your new life. A life of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. A life where you are the author of your thoughts, not their victim. A life where every challenge is an opportunity, every obstacle is the path, every moment is a chance to practice excellence. The great Stoics of the past passed the torch. Now it is in your hands. What you do with it will determine not only your future, but the future of everyone your life touches. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. The control of 1,000 thoughts begins with the observation of one. The transformation of an entire life begins with the decision of this moment. Make the decision, take the step, begin the journey. Your free mind awaits.